Hi, it's Mr. Zach.
And I'm Miss Rochelle. Welcome back to our Bible study on choices.
Let's do a little bit of memory verse practice. All right, I'm going to say it. You guys listen. I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I have set your rules before me. Psalm 119:30. All right, let's hear you guys say it. Good. Okay, how about we do it one more time and you guys say it with me? Are you ready? I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I have set your rules before me. Psalm 119:30. Excellent.
So we are on lesson 3 of our unit on choices, and this week we will be talking about the spies choice.
Okay, and the spies had to choose with the people of Israel, should we go into the promised land or not? This is found in Numbers chapter 13 and 14.
After leaving Egypt, the freed Hebrew slaves moved through the wilderness on their way to the land God had promised them. As they approached Canaan, they stopped in the wilderness of Zin at a place called Kadesh Barnea. The Lord told Moses to select a leader from each of the 12 tribes to go and spy out the land ahead. Moses chose a leader from each tribe. Moses told the leaders to find out whether the people in Canaan were strong or weak. How big were their towns, and were they fortified? Was the soil fertile or poor? He also asked them to bring back some fruit from the land. The 12 spies set out from Kadesh Barnea through the Negev desert, where the Amalekites lived, then up into the hill country. They saw very tall and strong people. They moved north through the hill country where the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites lived, and then around the river Jordan and the lake Galilee, where they saw Canaanites. The towns and the cities were large, and they were well fortified. The spies went as far north as Rehob before turning back and retracing their steps. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off grapes to carry back and show the Israelites. 2 of the spies carried the grapes on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. After 40 days, the spies returned to their camp. They reported, "The land does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are large. They are fortified." One of the spies, Caleb, silenced everyone and said, "We should go up and take the land, for we can certainly do it." 10 of the spies disagreed. "We can't attack these people. They are stronger than all of us. All the people we saw are huge. Compared to them, we seem like grasshoppers." That night the Israelites grumbled and complained and wept. They complained to Moses and Aaron, "Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only for us to die in battle? Our wives and our children will be taken as plunder." The Israelites started planning to choose another leader and go back to Egypt where they had been slaves. Moses and Aaron fell down in front of everyone. Two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, stood up and said, "This land we explored is exceedingly good. The Lord will lead us into that land flowing with milk and honey and give it to us. Don't rebel against God. Don't be afraid. The Lord is with us, not with them." Just as those listening were muttering about stoning Joshua and Caleb, the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting. The Lord told Moses, "How long will these people refuse to believe in me, in spite of all the miracles I have performed among them? I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them, but I will make you into a stronger nation." God told Moses he would punish their rebellion by keeping the Israelites in the wilderness for 40 years, 1 year for each day the spies had been in the land of Canaan. The 10 spies who brought a bad report died of plague. Only Joshua and Caleb survived, the spies who trusted in God to keep his promises and give them the land. The rebellious people changed their minds and decided that they were going to go ahead and attack the Amalekites just north of their camp. Moses said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you disobeying the Lord's command? This will not succeed." But the Israelites went ahead. The Amalekites, helped by the Canaanites from the hill country, came down and attacked the Israelites and beat them into a swift retreat. For the next 40 years, the Israelites wandered around the wilderness. All those who rebelled against God died. A new generation grew up, willing to trust God and take the land that God had promised to them, under the leadership of Joshua, who was supported by Caleb.
These images were brought to us by freebibleimages.org.
So, Mr. Zach, what are some of the choices that we read about in this story?
Yeah, there's a couple different groups of people who make choices in this story. And I think the first group of people that makes choices are the 10 spies who choose not to trust in God. Joshua and Caleb also choose to trust in God. And lastly, the Israelites choose to grumble and to complain.
Lots of choices. Are these choices good or bad choices?
Yeah, I think we had some people who made good choices, and we had some people who made bad choices.
Let's see where we will put those people on our chart here. There were 10 spies who chose not to trust in God.
Okay, and Joshua and Caleb, they chose to trust in God. This was a good choice.
Very good choice. And these are examples to us. We can learn not to follow the examples of the 10 spies who chose not to trust in God, but we should follow the example of Joshua and Caleb who chose to trust in God.
Yeah, that reminds me of a verse. Why don't you take out your Bible and open to Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, and let's find chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3, and I'm going to start reading in verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. I think this is a very applicable verse to this story because Joshua and Caleb, they didn't know how God was going to give them the land, but they trusted that he would, and so they were willing to follow him into a new place and do hard things.
And we should be able to do that too. We know that God keeps his promises. We know that God takes care of his people. And so we need to learn from Joshua and Caleb and trust in God, just like they trusted in God. Here's another choice that we're going to put in the sad face column. The Israelites chose to grumble and complain again. We read about the Israelites grumbling and complaining last week as well. And they had some bad consequences for their negative attitudes, for their grumbling and fussing and complaining, but they did not learn their lesson. Last week, we read a verse that tells us that we should not grumble and complain after we read about the Israelites' bad example. I think we need to read that verse again this week because it's important that we remember to have good attitudes and not grumble and complain.
Let's turn to Philippians chapter 2. So we were just in the Old Testament. Let's flip over to the New Testament. Philippians chapter 2. Okay, and we're going to start reading in verse 14. Do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. This is another really applicable verse, and what is described here looks just like Joshua and Caleb. They stood out as lights in a group of people who were wicked and did not trust in God, and they were rewarded.
You might find yourself around people who are grumbling and complaining and arguing, but if you find yourself in that situation, remember this verse and remember the example of Joshua and Caleb and be a light to the people around you. Don't grumble, don't complain, don't argue. Be a light. We need to be careful with how we make our choices, which brings us to our song. So you ready to sing with us? We know you're ready.
Yeah.
We know you're going to sing with us. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down with love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear. For the Father up above is looking down with love. So be careful, little ears, what you hear. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down with love. So be careful, little mouth, what you say. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go. Oh, be careful, little feet, where you go. For the Father up above is looking down with love. So be careful, little feet, where you go. Oh, be careful, little hands, what you do. Oh, be careful, little hands, what you do. For the Father up above is looking down with love. So be careful, little hands, what you do. I hope everybody was singing along with us. If you couldn't tell, we're moving our feet when we say, oh, be careful, little feet. So you can always do that too. Remember to make good choices this week.
Always trust in God, and don't grumble and complain.
Remember to read the Junior View, do the worksheets that come out with the Junior View, and to practice your memory verse this week as you're doing your Bible study activities. See you guys next week.
See ya.